I would say that almost no one, in terms of a society, a culture, a group of people, feels as comfortable in their own skin as the French do. Let's acknowledge this, though. There are problems in France for sure. They have this political party, the National Front, headed by Marine Le Pen. And this political party is a fascist party. Their goal is to get anybody who they don't consider to be French out. Now, France has the largest population of Muslims in Western Europe. It's a very, very diverse place, especially in the cities. Marseille kind of gets the reputation for being the most diverse place, but Paris is diverse, Lyon is diverse. There's a lot of diversity in France. There are people from North Africa, people from Sub-Saharan Africa, people from the Middle East, from South Asia, from Southeast Asia, from East Asia, from the Americas. And then there's a whole variety of Europeans there as well. So it's a complicated society. But the French themselves and people who are multi-generation French, as in born in France, those people are pretty comfortable in who they are. They understand their contributions to art. Look at the right-hand side. It's a picture I took in the Louvre, the biggest art museum on earth. What they do is they allow people who are studying art from the École Beaux-Arts, which is down the street, to come in and do replications of the already well-known paintings. Because this is how you learn how to do something. You know, you practice what somebody else did and then you create your own style. And if you look at the way he's doing that, it's almost better than the real thing. In addition to that, of course, they know the reputation of their language and how beautiful it is and how poetic it is. They know their contributions to literature, political and social theory, and of course, they're acutely aware of how great their food is. My experience in France is that every time I sit down to a meal, I know I may very well be sitting down to the best meal of my life, and it has happened many times. Well, the center of that culture, of course, is Paris. Can you see that big oil well in the middle? Oh, see, that was my impression the first time I saw the Eiffel Tower when I was 21 years old. I thought, yeah, it looks like a big oil well. I like it much more now than I did at that time. Paris is a primate city. Do you remember what this term means? It means it's a city that's at least twice the size of the next biggest city, and it dominates all aspects of a country. Well, Paris definitely does that. There's 12.5 million people that live in the Paris metropolitan area. The next biggest city in France is Lyon, which has 2.2 million, and then Marseille has 1.7 million. There's 7 cities in France that are over a million people. But that is not a lot in reality, considering how urban Europe really is. And in addition to that, France has, or Paris has, what's known as a radial transportation network. This means a transportation network that's focused on or centered on one city. So all of the transportation lines head outwards away from that city. And of course, that city is Paris, which means the rail lines, the road lines, the airlines, the canals, you name it, everything is kind of going in and out of that system, which is very beneficial for the Parisians because it allows them to go basically wherever they want just by taking a straight shot. If you look on the left-hand side, this is the northern French public transportation routes, which is mostly rail lines. And then you look on the right-hand side, the northern French highway system. And you can see the way it's kind of a spoke system. It radiates outwards. It's a radial transportation network, which of course, again, is very beneficial if you live in Paris because it allows you a straight shot off in whatever direction you're going to go. Now let's look at the neighborhood. I told you this was going to happen because it's really important. So the French border, Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, as we're all aware, Switzerland, Italy, and then in the south, Spain and Andorra. Okay. Wherever there is a border in France, there's an overlap culturally, linguistically, in terms of the people themselves, what the houses look like. All of this overlaps right along the borders. Now, in most places in France, it hasn't been that big of a deal historically. But where it has been, of course, is along the border with Germany. The 2 French states that border Germany are Alsace and Lorraine, which you can see highlighted over there in the northeast in red. Now, in French, they call them départements, like departments, but it means states. So these are the two states that border Germany. There has been, because of that border, a cultural back and forth that has existed between those two countries in those two states. And since the 1600s, there's been multiple reoccupations. In other words, the Germans controlling it for some period of time, then the French controlling it, then the Germans controlling it, the French controlling it. And you can imagine what this has done culturally to this area. The people are really part French and part German, or not French and not German, whichever way you want to look at it. And in fact, the place this shows up most, although you can see this is a picture of Strasbourg, which is in Alsace. If you look at those timbered houses, a very German way of building houses. But the place it shows up most obviously is with the language. Many of the people there don't really speak French or German. Now, they may speak both of those languages perfectly well. But when they speak to each other, they speak a language called Alsatian, which is a strange mix of French and German. And remember, French is a Romance language, German is a Germanic language. They don't go across so fluidly and easily. It's not the same as French and Spanish or German and English. But this is the language that the people speak when they speak to each other. And it's very strange because when you hear it, it's like French, 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 German, German, French, German, and then the sentence ends. And then German, French, German, French, French, German, German. And it's like they just sort of cherry pick whichever word works best in that moment. It's a little bit like living in Southern California, where you hear people back and forth switching between English and Spanish with regularity. It's what we tend to call Spanglish or Spinglish, whichever one you want to call it. This is kind of what's happened there, only they are a couple of centuries ahead of us on this. So you can imagine that a couple centuries from now, the people who live along the border with Mexico in the United States we're really going to be speaking Spanglish probably. But when we go to Iowa, we'll speak English to them, just like the people in Alsace speak French. But then when they speak amongst each other, they speak Alsatian, and we'll be speaking Spanglish to each other. So you can see they're kind of ahead of us in a way. And this is a common thing where cultures overlap, language overlaps.